Welcome to this tutorial where we shall talk about Access as a database management system. We shall learn how to develop a basic database system using Access. So how do we do this? You go to the Start menu, then you type Access. Depending on the version that you have. So Access will open. Then you'll be able to see these very many options available. For our case, we shall look at the blank database. So on building this particular system, we shall use the guide that we all shared. This is the guide that we shall use. We shall have two entities, that is doctor and patients. So these are the guiding questions that will help us in learning how to build a simple database system in Access as indicated here. So the first thing you're supposed to do is to create the database, which we shall do by clicking on blank database right here. So that is step one. So you click on blank database, then you give it a name. For this case, I'll call it Patients Management System. Then somewhere here, adjacent to where you put the file name, there is a button here, that is an icon here for the folder. So you browse to the directory that contains your folder that you're looking for. So I'll click on that. Then I'll look for the folder that I created on the desktop. You can search it by the file name from the search engine here. So you can search for the folder right here. So you open the folder, then you hit the OK button. So after having done that, you click on Create. By default, you'll have the datasheet view with the name Table 1. So you right click on the tab right here or on the table here, then you go to the design view. It will prompt you to give the table name. So as indicated on our guide, we have doctor. So we shall type there doctor as our table name or entity name. So you'll get to the design view. Now when you look at the design view, this is the physical design of the database. You have the field name, you have data type, you have description, which is optional. So right here we shall type DRID, which is our first field name, this one right here. So we shall type DRID, then the data type we shall pick short text. Now you have very many other data types that you can pick from. What is a data type? A data type defines how we store data in the database. We have short text, we have long text in case you want to type something much more. When you're dealing with quantities, you pick numbers. When you're dealing with date, you pick date or time. When you're dealing with money, you pick currency. Auto number if you want automatic count, like we can see on the patients table. Then in case you have two values, true or false, yes or no, male or female, then you pick this. Then all the objects in case you want images to be on your database. So let's pick short text. Then the next field name, as you can see, is dr name. So you type dr name. We shall also give it the same data type, which is short text. The next field name is specialization. So you type there specialization. Then we shall pick the data type as short text. But since specialization doesn't change often, we shall use the lookup wizard. The lookup wizard will help us to create the drop down just like the one you're seeing right here. So you click on lookup wizard. Then you select option 2. I'll type the values that I want. You can pick from any other field, but for our case we want to type the values that you want, which are the list of the specializations. So we shall pick option 2 by checking on this particular radio button, then you click next. Now make sure that you don't accidentally delete this one, because you want to be able to type any content here. Okay, so we can start typing the specializations. So we have dentist, we have children, we have women affairs, then we also have men affairs, and STDs. So after having typed this, you click next, then you click the finish button. So we have created our list. So the next field name is time available. Time available. So now when you're naming the field names, make sure that you don't leave spaces. Either you join the words or use the underscore. So I'll join the words by typing time available. Then we shall also give it short text. Then the next field name is telephone. So we'll give it the field name telephone. Then we shall also give it data type as short text. But for telephone, we shall use the input mask such that people will capture the data in the database. Don't make any mistake and capture, for example, somebody's name. So you'll click on the button adjacent here. Then it will prompt you to save the changes. So you click save. So we have very many other options here, but we are interested in the phone number. So you click next. Then we shall backspace this, type the exclamation mark, open the bracket, then plus, meaning the country code 999. So the country code, for example, 256, 254, and many others. Then we shall put the hyphen, then we put the telecom company code, then we put the hyphen, then we put the personal identity number right there. So we shall click the next button. It will give you these options. How do you want it to look? There's option A and option B. So we shall pick the first option, which also includes the symbol. Then you click next and hit the finish button. So our mask will be here. So the next field name is salary. So you type there salary. Then salary, the data type we shall pick in this case is currency. So you click on currency. Then we want to format it to UGX. So you'll type UGX, then hash, meaning number, then 1000 separator. So you put hash 3 times 0.00. Those are decimal places. So after typing that format, you press the enter key, and we can now save the changes. Okay, so as you can notice, our format has gone, which is fine. We can retype it again. So you type UGX hash, then comma, then triple hash, meaning the 1000 separator, then the decimal places. Then we can be able to save the changes this time. So we now have our currency format here. So we have created one entity. So let's create the next entity. So all the 4 objects that we shall develop, stage 1 we have finished. We have created the database, and now we have started creating the tables. So all the 4 objects that we shall be able to develop according to the guide that we have here, which is the table, the form, the queries, and the report. All those 4 objects can be found on the create menu. So to create the next table, which is for patients, we simply click on create, then you click on table. It will take you to the datasheet view, just like previously. Right click, then click on save, then you give it the name, patient. Then you hit the OK button, then you can go to the design view and you can give it the field name as patient's number as indicated on our table here. So type patient's number. Now when you look at the patient's number, it is a series of numbers 1, 2, 3 and etc, meaning it's an auto number. So we shall maintain the data type as auto number. Then we have patient's name, which is also short text. Then we have the next field name, which is the address. It will also be short text. Then we have the next field name, which is sickness. Short text as well. Then we shall have the doctor's ID. Now the doctor's ID is what we call the foreign key. The foreign key field represents the doctor from this particular table, and we use it to enforce referential integrity to make sure that the right doctor is captured together with the right patient that they treated, and also to ensure that we avoid some database anomalies. So now we have created all our fields as indicated. Now the next step will be to create the forms. So we can save these changes, we can go straight away and create the form. So like I said, all objects are contained under the menu create. So you'll click on the create button, then you go to form wizard. Now at this point you can select the table from which you want to make the form. The form is used to capture data in the database. So by default here we have the doctors table. So you will move all these fields to the right, meaning you want to capture all this information. Then you click next, next, and you can maintain this for now. Then you hit the finish button. Okay. So now we have our form here. So let's create the next form for patients. So you click on create, then you go to the form wizard. For this case, by default, it's still picking doctor. So you'll click on this drop down, then you pick patients, then you click next, then next, next, until you hit the finish button. So now we are ready to capture data. So another caution that you need to take is that when you're capturing data, you start from the primary form. So before we capture the data, let's first enforce the referential integrity or create relationships. So I'll close these forms. Then you go to database tools. Then you click on relationships. This dialog box will pop up. Click add. Then you click on patients. Then you add. Then we close. Then we shall drag the doctor's ID up to that point. Then you will have these particular fields that are corresponding right here. So in case you accidentally drop it in the wrong place, for example, and it's showing something like this, you can select doctor's ID, which is the foreign key, from the drop down. Then after having done that, you enforce referential integrity by ticking this checkbox. Then you can also cascade update and cascade delete. These are database anomalies that I was talking about. So I click on create. So you can see the one-to-many relationship. Now for you to do this, make sure that all objects are closed. Make sure that there's no table open. because if the table is open, you won't be able to reach this stage. So make sure that when you're creating the relationships, all the tabs here are closed. So we can now save this change and close. So let's capture the doctor's information first. Like I said, you cannot capture information on this table without capturing this. Why? Because this particular record will be referenced, that is the doctor's ID. So if it mismatches, then you want to proceed. So let's go ahead and capture the doctor's information data onto this particular system of ours. So we start from here. We have Dr. 01. So please make sure that you use 01, not letter O here. So the doctor's name is Edward. Then specialization, as indicated here, is a dentist. Then he works from 2 to 4 p.m. Then the telephone contact as indicated. So we shall say 256, for example. Then we have 772. Then 079. Two, three. So 30, 72, 23. Okay. Then we capture the salary, which is 1.2 million. Then to add another record, you click on this particular tab here. So we capture the next record, that is DR02, and the name is Diana, and specialization is children's affairs. Then time available 4 to 6 p.m. Then telephone, shall put 256 773 456 789. Then the salary is 1 million. Add the next record, that is DR03, that is Brian. Women affairs, and available from 8 to 1. Telephone 256 779 897 065, and the salary 800. Add the next record, DR04, Anita, specialization men affairs, time available 2 to 4 p.m. and contact 256 712 543 678. Salary 800. Then finally we have DR05, and this is Philippa. Specialization ST, time available 8 to 1 p.m. and the telephone 256 704 768 512. Salary 1.2. Next, so we have captured the doctor's records. Let's also capture the records for the patients by double clicking on the patient's form. Then we capture these details right here. So for this case, like I said, we shall have the auto number. So you just start straight away by typing the patient's name. So we have Maria, then the address, sickness, then the doctor's ID, which is DR01. So just like we did for the doctor's form, we click on add the next record, then you have Kate. So like I said, this is auto number, so as you type the record, automatically it will count. The address, corner, then the sickness, typhoid, doctor's ID, still DR01. So the next patient, Sheila from Kampala, and the sickness is malaria, doctor's ID DR02. Then you add next. So the next patient is James from Mukono and polio. Then the doctor's ID also is DR02. So you add the next. We have Namu, the address, Kampala, sickness, ST, then doctor's ID, that is DR05. Add next. AD, from Mukono, malaria. Doctor's ID is also DR05. Carol, address Chirika, then the sickness is malaria, doctor's ID DR03. Then we add Agnes from Mukono, typhoid, also DR03. Now, what I was telling you about the referential integrity is what you can see here. We can test this. For example, if I put DR06 and attempt to submit this record, you'll see this kind of error message that you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in the table doctor. So make sure that when you're capturing records, you capture what is already existing there. So if we double click on our records here, you find that we have this information, and also for patients we have here. So far we have created the database, we have created the tables, we created the relationships, and created the forms, and captured the information. So now we are going to the next tasks, which is the queries. So far we have two objects. So far we have two objects in place. So let's create the queries as instructed. So which query are we supposed to create here? We're supposed to generate queries that list all the patients for Dr. Edward and rename it Edward's patients. So how do we do that? Like I said, you go to the create menu, then you go to query design. From the query design, you will add the tables, highlight patients, then you add and close. Okay. So we shall only be interested in the doctor's name and specialization, and here also we can get the patient's name and the sickness. So when you look at the bottom here, we have some kind of spreadsheet where we have the field, for example, doctor's name, table, for example, table called doctor. Then we can also sort, then show. Now this section means that the records that we shall display, the fields we shall display here, we may not need some of them, so you can check or uncheck these particular checkboxes. Then the criteria, this is where we put the logical test or the condition upon which the query should be able to return. Then if you have alternative, that's when you use or. So straight away, how do we get the fields here? We can double click. So you double click on name, it will appear here. Now what I was trying to tell you is this: if something appears, for example, twice like this, and don't want it to appear in your display, you just uncheck. Okay. So we also double click on the doctor's specialization, it will appear here. Then double click on the patient's name, it will appear there. Then the sickness. Okay, so we have it here. So in case you don't want to see any field, you can uncheck, just like the way we have done here. So after having done that, you go to the design view, then you run the query. So as you can see, we have not yet done the filtering. Edward, Dr. Edward is still here. So you go back to the design view, then in the criteria where we have doctor's name here, you type Edward, then you run the query. So we should be able to have only patients treated by Dr. Edward. Okay. So now we can save this as Edward's patients. Then you hit the OK button. Okay, so we have created a query. It's also here. Now let's look at the next query that we're supposed to create. We're supposed to list all patients not from Mukono and name it not from Mukono. Okay, so how do we do this? We shall follow the same procedure. We shall go to the query design by going to create, then you go to query design, then you click add. Okay, then you add. So our main interest is on this particular query where we're supposed to list all patients who are not from Mukono. So meaning that we just need display on records from the patient. So we shall double click on here, the patient's number, the name, address, sickness, and perhaps you can also have the doctor's ID. Okay, so under criteria corresponding to address, you'll type the less than and greater than symbol. This is the Boolean logic for not in Access. So it means we are supposed to list all patients excluding those from Mukono. So you put less than and greater than symbol, then you straight away type the word Mukono. Then you run the query. So as you can see, all patients have been displayed excluding those from Mukono. So we can save this as not from Mukono. Then you hit the OK button. Okay. So next, we are supposed to create a report for Mukono patients. Query above, and we call it Chireka or Kampala patients. Okay. So we shall click on this particular query right here. Then we go to create. When you click on create, then you go to the report wizard. Then you move all the fields. As you can see here, this is our query. Then you click next, next, next until you hit the finish button. But before we hit the finish button, we need to give it a name, just like it is indicated here, Chireka or Kampala patients. So we can change this to Chireka or Kampala patients. So you hit the finish button. Okay. So our report will be displayed right here. So we only have one task remaining, which is indicated right here. We're supposed to create a field on the form to compute the total salary. So how do we do that? You go to the form section here, right click on doctor's form, go to the design view, then you can see it has the header section, the detail, or what we would call the body, then the footer. So we need more space here. So what do? You point just above this bar where we have the footer until you form a plus like symbol like that. Then you drag it down. Okay. Then we go to the design view. Then you'll find the controls, what you call the elements or the form elements. So the one you want is the text box. So you click on it, then you drop it where you want it to be. So you come and click somewhere right there. You can use this canvas to adjust the width as much as you wish. Then you can do the same to the label right here. So we shall double click on this label, then we say total salary. Then we click on this particular text box, then you right click and go to properties. When you click on properties, you will see it displayed on the side just like the way you see this. Then you go to the option all, then you have the control source right here. This is where we are going to write our formula. So click on this particular tab here with the dots on it. Then this particular interface you're seeing right here that will pop up is an equivalent of an Excel cell, meaning that there are very many functions that you can type and they pop out. For example, what you want to compute is the total salary.
So you just type sum. As you can see, the function is here. We double click on it. So what do you want sum? You want sum the salary. So when you come to expression categories right here, you look for salary right here. So make sure you don't click on salary label. Click on salary as a text box right here. So you double click, then you close the parenthesis, then you hit the OK button. You can save the changes. Then you can go to the form view, either by right clicking on this tab and you click on form view, or you just double click on the form right here. So as you can see, the total has been computed right here. So thanks for watching. Always practice, and practice makes perfect. Thank you for watching.